networking and job searching, there's a lot of parallels across all of them. But to your point, it is about investing the time. And if you think about your best friendships, they're probably your longest friendships. They're probably people where you've built up that relationship over time. Now, you do have different tiers of friends. You have your very close friends. You've got your, hey, I like these people friends. You have some more casual acquaintances. Your network will be like that too. Not everyone's on equal footing. But again, it's going to take time.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Intelligent Conversations podcast. Today, I have the honor to learn from Mark Herschberg. Mark has spent his career launching and developing new ventures at startups and Fortune 500 companies and in academia. With over a dozen patents to his name, he has started the Career Success Accelerator at MIT. As a graduate of MIT and Harvard, he has received a BS in physics, electrical engineering, computer science, and mechanical engineering. He also is just a brilliant guy, great communicator. This conversation that I had with Mark is for those of you that are interested, no matter what walk of life, in leveling up your career. This conversation with Mark just has so much knowledge that we can use in our everyday lives. And yeah, I don't want to spoil the rest of the show. This conversation I had with Mark was fun and just relaxed, and he's a great communicator. So without further ado, let's welcome Mark Herschberg to the show. And you're a professional ballroom dancer. And I have to say that I did take a ballroom class. I see the appeal. It's fun. I see why some people judge that hardcore, but it is fun. It's fun. It's something I wouldn't do professionally and something like that, but it's fun. I think that's something that gets hate on.
It's one of the best things I ever did. And it was helpful to me. Obviously, physically, it's great exercise. Helpful to me personally. I made lots of great friends. It was helpful to me professionally. It is just a wonderful activity I recommend to lots of people.
It's fun. And especially on the exercise part, I agree with that. There are times where I came out of that and like, wait, did I just break a sweat? Like I played basketball and other sports. I'm like, I'm breaking a sweat here. And it blew my mind.
A friend of mine described it very well. He said, imagine running a 400-meter race, wearing a tuxedo, balancing a plate on your head, to music, while smiling the whole time. If you can do that, you just did round one of the first event of a weekend-long competition. And of course,
that's wild.
You're doing it backwards and in heels.
Yeah. Oh, that's even crazier, right? Wow. That's impressive. And yeah, and so I want to ask this: how do you, I guess, find your hobby? Because I think, especially someone at my age, how do you, I guess, kind of find that thing you love and explore and find that hobby is something you'll love? Because like you said, there's benefits.
You need to be open-minded. So I'll give you the background on this. When I was in 6th grade, my mother forced me to take ballroom dance lessons. The community I grew up in, a lot of the kids did cotillion. So they all got sent to this class. And my mom sent me as well, even though we weren't doing cotillion. I said, Mom, I don't want to do this. She said, no, you need to do this. You need to learn how to dance for your wedding. To which I said, I will never do ballroom dancing at my wedding. But I was forced to go. The boys wore jacket and ties. The girls would all wear dresses. Terrible experience because, of course, this is 6th grade. No one had their cootie shots yet.
Yeah.
Really bad. And I suffered through it, said, I'm never doing that again. When I got to college, a friend of mine tried to get me to join the ballroom dance club, to which I said, no, been there, done that, not happening. And so for years, I refused. But when I was a senior, I got set up with a girl from Wellesley, and that went well. So I thought, okay, well, I want to start seeing her. And during MIT's intersession, we have a January intersession period. You don't have to come back for it, but if you do, there's 1,000 different things going on. You can go skiing, you can learn origami, you can learn special relativity, all sorts of different academic things. And one of the more popular ones were ballroom dance lessons. So I thought, oh, this is a fun couples activity. It's on campus. It only cost $2, so it's cheap.
Oh, that's killer, right? Especially as a college student.
So we started doing the ballroom dance classes together. And by this point, we were in college, so we all did have cootie shots. And
oh, thank goodness.
yeah, much safer that way. And it was a lot more fun. And the music wasn't just that really old music that why would I want to dance to this? It was modern music, although it turns out I like some of that old music too.
Mm-hmm.
And even though she and I didn't date very long, she's still a friend of mine to this day, ballroom dancing was a lot more fun. I got into it and started to do the club. I then started dating a new girl. She had a dance background. She used to do dance troupe. I got her into ballroom dancing. And after doing it for a bit, she decided she wanted to compete and join the team, which apparently meant I had also decided I wanted to compete and join the team. And I am so glad that happened because it, as I said, just put me on this path of an amazing experience that stuck with me to this day.
That's so cool. And like you said at the beginning, I think the benefits, as you said, that came out of that. When you first started out, you came in with that mindset, I don't really know about this. But like I tried that, been there and done that. But, sometimes we just don't really know what the outcome is going to be. And it's just having that courage to try something new and put yourself out there and have an open mind, like you said in the beginning.
Here's the thing. If you're a college student, really take advantage of what's on campus. So ballroom dancing is a great example. If I wanted to start ballroom dancing right now, private lessons will cost me about $100 an hour these days. I don't know the current rate, but ballpark that rate. Okay. And finding a partner isn't easy. The costumes are very expensive. There are group classes in cities, but often they don't have them at advanced levels. But because I did it through a college team, we could bring in instructors, we could amortize the cost, we could have high-level group classes, the type that you wouldn't normally find in a studio, but there were enough of us that we could do it together as a group. We had a costume closet. Actually, for men, it's not that big of a deal, but for women, $1,000, multi-$1,000 dresses, but you could borrow them from the team. And so something that's very expensive and inaccessible suddenly became easier. There was an electric car club, a solar car club at MIT. Try building a solar car in your backyard with friends. It's not so easy, but at MIT, you will have parts donated. You don't have to buy them all.
It's true.
You can turn to the professors or the automotive companies will stop by and try to help you out. You have access to so much when you are on campus. The cost is much lower, the financial cost, even things like time, even things like if I wish I had taken fencing because I could have just gone to the fencing PE or the fencing team for a bit and then just gone home and showered. In New York, okay, after work, I have to head over to the fencing club, pay a lot of money for it. And then I'm all sweaty. I have to go back and shower and change. It's just so much easier when things are on campus. So do all these random, bizarre things you wouldn't normally think of. It is so much more accessible while you're in college.
Thank you for that. That's great advice. I know I'm going to be thinking about that too. And I think that plays into something called networking, which you've written in your book, The Career Toolkit, and the importance of that. So could we kind of touch on that? And I mean, obviously, right, hobbies are one way of networking. Just, making friends, honestly, is one aspect of it. But I guess what's your approach to networking good?
Well, you hit the nail on the head when you said making friends. Networking is about relationships. What most people get wrong, they have this image of a salesperson walks into a conference and an hour later she comes out with 20 business cards. Oh, she networked. Look at all those business cards. Well, saying she got 20 business cards and now she's networked, that's like saying, oh, I add 20 people on LinkedIn. They're all now in my network. And people think that's networking too. But let's even use another analogy. You're on a dating app. You're swiping right.
Yeah.
Swipes back. So, oh, okay. Hey, I just matched with this girl. We both swiped right. Great. I'm now dating her. Go, hold on a second. You're not dating.
No. That's not how it works.
You're not yet in a relationship. You've expressed interest, but now you actually have to go on a date. And after a few dates, maybe then you're dating her. Maybe then you're in a relationship. But swiping right is not a relationship. And yet people think, oh, I added you on LinkedIn or I got your business card. We now have a relationship. And you don't. Think of it as networking is relationship building. It just means meeting people. And it's the same thing. Now, your dates are not romantic in orientation. It may be, hey, let's just meet up for coffee. Let's just do a call. Let's just chat. Let's see ways we can get to know each other, help each other, not for anything romantic, but it's the same concept. So you want to say, I want to build a relationship with other people. Going with that mentality, not the, let me get business cards, let me get people following me on social media, or hey, can you get me a job? No, done, next. That's transactional. That's like the guy picking up someone at a bar and saying, are you going to sleep with me? No, next.
All right, next one. Yeah, it doesn't work long term. And correct me if I'm wrong, it probably takes time as well, which is in this world, people don't want to do, right? It takes time to invest into someone, get to know them, their interests, all that, fun stuff about a human being. And I mean, I'm guilty of this too, right? That attention span is just so short and you're like, all right, next. So it's wild out there. I'll tell you that, especially the dating, just spurred.
Dating and networking and job searching, there's a lot of parallels across all of them. But to your point, it is about investing the time. And if you think about your best friendships, they're probably your longest friendships. They're probably people where you've built up that relationship over time. Now, you do have different tiers of friends. You have your very close friends. You've got your, hey, I like these people friends. You have some more casual acquaintances. Your network will be like that too. Not everyone's on equal footing. But again, it's going to take time.
So I guess what are some strategies you can do to, what are good approaches to invest that time in a smart way?
When you meet people, it's first remembering, much like swiping right on the app or meeting someone at a bar, there's a next step. There's a few next steps. You have to do the date. You want to do that with your relationships. I'll say, hey, it was great meeting you. Okay, but then what's going to happen next? Now, there's a couple things you can do. You could say, hey, let's meet up for coffee. Let's get together. We'll exchange information. We'll meet up in the future. If you can find something in common, say, oh, I want to talk to you more about the internship you had last summer. I want to hear what it was like working at that company. I want to learn something from you. In fact, here's something that's helpful, again, both on dates and in networking. Now, I've been on a lot of bad dates. Well, a lot of boring dates. I wouldn't say horrible. Been on some horrible ones. When I'm on a date thinking, okay, I just sat down, I can tell in 10 minutes, this is not going to work, but I don't want to be rude. I'm going to be for 30 or so minutes. The way I focus myself is, okay, this woman, there is something about her that's interesting. It might be something she knows. Maybe it's something she does, some hobby. Maybe it's where she grew up. Maybe it's a place she's been, traveled to. Maybe it's a perspective she has. I don't know what it is, but there is something interesting about this person. And my job is to find it. And that keeps me focused.
And it keeps things interesting too, right? Because, I mean, why put yourself through a horrible date, so to speak, and just not enjoy the time there? It's like, well, might as well get to know something fascinating about you and try. I mean, yeah, maybe we're complete opposites and this is just not going to work, but let's try and find something interesting that, one, I just don't know about and learn about. And then
exactly. But you can use the same technique in non-dates. When you meet someone at an event, you say, hey, there's something interesting about this person. I wonder what it is. And what this does, it helps you stay focused because you have to pay attention to the conversation, but you're also focusing attention on the person. The favorite topic of everyone on this planet is themselves. So you get them talking about where they've been, what they think, what they do. They love it. And so they're going to have a positive experience with that interaction with you. You're going to learn something and you're going to start to build that relationship.
That's true, especially on the part where most favorite thing to talk about is ourselves, because it's the best thing we know, right? We know ourselves better than anyone else does, and we want to share that with other people. It's just natural. So on that, I also want to add, this is something, as you were talking, that kind of made sense, and I've actually been kind of emphasizing this just even with recent episodes, and that's communication as well. I think that's also very helpful because, yeah, you can ask a question, but if you can't communicate, so to speak, right, your interests or whatever it may be, that well, it makes it really hard for that relationship to really blossom. Would you kind of agree on that communication is important as well?
We see so many challenges because people are talking past each other. They're miscommunicating. They're not explaining well what they're trying to get across. And if you think about it, we all in our heads, we have this mental model in our head. I can approximate that model with the words I use, but it's not perfect. I can't exactly take what and put in your head. I have to use some words that are an imperfect representation. And then you're going to hear those words and you're going to put them into a model in your head based on how you understand words. And it's kind of like a copy of a copy of a copy. We're starting to lose something. So learning how you can get closer is really critical. And so it's learning to speak other people's language or mental models.
And not to get into like machines, but like almost reduce that gap in like receiving and transmitting information, right? Like essentially like what you were saying, you're transmitting information to them, and to you it may make sense, but I think the other part that's important is you have to receive that information as well. And that's the part that sometimes we may forget, is that, okay, we have to receive that information, and then now we have new information, and then we got to transmit it back out. But humans are way more complicated than machines, so let's maybe stay away from that.
Yeah, the closer I can get to the mental model in your head, the less hops in this game of telephone and the more fidelity I can get with my message to you.
I like that. I like that a lot. So I hate to kind of like change gears here, but freshmen in college just, started going to school. They want to have a successful career. If you had to just right off the bat get down to those fine details to help them have a successful career, what would those questions be?
This applies at any year. And honestly, first years are probably going to be just focused on adjusting to college. But two very important things you can do is, one, just try to meet as many people as possible. Meet, obviously, other students, but also talk to the faculty, talk to the staff, talk to the people who come to campus. The great thing about colleges is they are magnets for ideas and people. People show up to do lectures. Companies come to do presentations, to do events. Where I am, I don't just have people knocking on my door or down the hall from me saying, oh yeah, we're doing an event. Why don't you just come by and learn things? So take advantage and meet lots of different people. And especially as a student, people are very open to meeting you. In fact, even off campus, it is very easy to meet people. I'll give you an example. If I just write to a stranger on the internet and say, hey, I'm curious about this, can you help me? They're going to say, who are you, weirdo? But you say, I am a student, I'm a rising sophomore, and I'm curious to learn more about your industry, you have a higher chance of getting a response. And certainly if you're reaching out to your alumni network, then you have a very high chance of getting a response. We all remember what it was like to be a student, and so we're all sympathetic to what you're going through. Now that goes to the second piece. So you're meeting lots of people. Talk to people about what they're doing. And this is where a lot of people make mistakes, because we think we know what a job is, but most of us don't actually know. So here's an example. If you said to someone, what does a lawyer do? Says, oh, I know, because I've watched some law TV show and it involves very dramatic courtroom events and arguing back and forth with opposing counsel. And depending on the show, probably lots of drinking and or sex.
Yeah.
If you talk to a lawyer about what they actually do, most lawyers do not spend much time, if at all, in the court. They sit in their office and they sit by themselves and they have a contract and they sit there redlining the contract. They spend time sitting on calls with irate clients. They spend time trying to research legal precedent and writing briefs. It is actually not the dramatic, exciting courtroom scene we see on TV. It is so different than that.
And they probably, I mean, this is just my understanding of lawyers. Most of the time, they're usually writing stuff up to protect them from even going to the courtroom in the first place.
That's exactly it. And so the experience, it's not in court and the excitement and, oh, I like debate in high school, so I want to be a lawyer. It's I'm a quiet introvert and I like time by myself, reading and focus time. That's what you get in law. And when people are misaligned, when I think, well, I'm going to be in court, you go, oh, wait a second, no, I'm not. That's a problem. Medicine, what does a doctor do? Take care of sick people. What does a doctor actually do in private practice? You spend a lot of time doing paperwork and billing. And oh, you're running a private practice? You have to hire staff. You have to find patients. A whole bunch of things that aren't taking care of sick people. So when you meet all these different interesting people, ask them about their jobs. But don't just say, hey, what do you do as a petroleum engineer? Say, what do you do in a typical week? What's the fun part? What's the boring part? How much time do you spend doing different things? What do you wish you could change? What do you wish you knew going into this? What are the things that someone thinking about this would make them attracted to it or not attracted to it? What do you think is going to happen to the industry in a few years? Ask them all these details. That's going to help you understand what might be a fit.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's actually not only helpful for me, but for those listening as well. That's interesting that you bring up the point that, because sometimes, right, when we're looking at jobs, so to speak, we look at the glamorous, right? Like in the courtroom, right? The debate. But I like the point that you said, hey, just talk to them what the day, like a typical week looks like, because there's a lot of mundane and boring aspects of any job, really. And it's not going to be this constant, what's the word I'm looking for? Just euphoric high, I guess.
Well, bring it back to dating. Your first date, your second date, you're dressing up, you're going somewhere fun. When you're married, hopefully you're still having those good times and doing fun things, but there's also the day-to-day boring of doing the dishes. And the right relationship isn't just, well, I have a great time with you when we're partying at some bar. It's, can you sit next to this person at breakfast for years on end and say, I am happy doing this? If you can't do that, that's not a good marriage for you. It's not a good job for you when, yeah, we get to do this exciting thing, but all the other stuff in between, if you're not happy doing that, is it worth it for you?
Interesting. So how, I guess, do you shift that mindset to maybe not necessarily become obsessed with the mundane, but like, I guess, find joy in it? Because, I mean, we're human beings. We want to be happy and we want to like enjoy life.
Well, the question is, for the non-exciting parts, is it just neutral? Okay, do dishes. No one gets excited about doing dishes. But if you hate doing dishes, okay, that's a negative. And look, in every job, there will probably be something that's negative. But it's a question of, when you think positive, neutral, negative, how positive, how negative, and what percentage of the time are you doing positive and negative? If you're getting 60% is positive and great and you love it, and 5% it's not great, it's negative, but a small negative. Well, this job overall is good. There's lots of positive, there's some neutral, little bit of negative. But if you're saying, hey, it's 80% negative, and it's a lot of negative over and over, but maybe like 2% of the time I get some great positive, this annual event we put on, and that's so much fun, but the rest of the time I hate it, it's a grind. Is it worth it for that 2%? This may not be the right job for you.
That's true. And So I don't know. Are there jobs? Because I've heard the phrase where it's like, if you want to, like, in regards to money, if you want to make a lot of money, either do something people will not do, like, at all, or do something that they can't do, like just the knowledge that you have, no one else has. So we need people, I guess, to do kind of those mundane jobs and are boring. Oh, man, sorry, I lost my train of thought there.
Well,
But
I think I know where you're going. It's all relative. Now, there are some things sanitation workers are well compensated because it's not a great job. You're outside in the rain, in the cold. You're literally dealing with garbage. It's smelly. It's physically taxing. It's even dangerous. They actually have a pretty high injury rate.
I didn't know that.
And so they're well compensated for that. And probably most people would not say, I'm looking forward to doing that. On the other hand, if you think about people, there are people who spend their days doing analysis in spreadsheets. All day they're staring at spreadsheets, they're getting the columns to line up right and getting all the numbers to work out. And there are people who say this is torture because you're sitting in a room by yourself staring at a screen. This is painful. And then there are other people who say, that is wonderful. That is my dream. I love doing that. And so that's where we get this labor arbitrage that some people say, I love being in the room staring at a spreadsheet 8 hours a day. And other people say, I love going to an event and being in rooms full of 1,000 strangers and trying to meet them. Whereas an introvert might say, that's my idea of torture. So it's finding what you enjoy doing, because I guarantee you someone else does not like it and they will pay you for you being able to do that.
And that's what we should do. You should get paid for something you like, and you'll bring more energy to the job, which usually, I'm not going to say always, usually implies that you're going to do better work than the guy that's just, oh, I'm here for the money. So I want to ask this then. It's maybe the jobs that aren't necessarily high pay, and maybe that's something you desire, right? You want to make, a lot of money, but maybe that job that you enjoy, you kind of like, you're looking at it, it doesn't cap out at a point where you would be satisfied. What would be kind of the advice there to kind of, I guess, get both, right?
The optimization is not about your job. And this is a mistake lots of people make. They focus on how do I get the right job and then try to fit their life around it. You need to optimize for your life and make sure your job fits into that. There's an example in the book. We talked about ballroom dancing earlier. I knew a guy who was a very serious ballroom dancer. His job was basically I can't remember what it is. I may have put in the book. It was some mundane job. It didn't pay a lot. It was not exciting at all. But the job gave him enough money to pay for his ballroom dancing. It gave him flexibility so he could go off every weekend. He could take off early on Fridays to go to a weekend competition. And that's what he wanted to do. That optimized his life. For me, no, I never turned professional. We were all on the amateur circuit. Back then, there were very clear rules about you were either amateur or professional. Mm-hmm. And I had friends of mine who did turn pro. I maybe could have turned pro. I would not have been the top pro, but
you would have been good.
I could have owned a studio. I could have made money, but I wanted a different career. As much as I love ballroom dancing, I didn't want to do it professionally. And so I chose a different path. And for me, having more money than what I would have made in ballroom is one of the reasons. There's other reasons as well, not just financial, but this other guy chose a different path. So it's really, what are you trying to do in life? And then does the job, even if the job itself doesn't make you completely happy, does it lead to your net happiness in life? I'll give you one more example. There was a guy I met who is actually an MIT alum. He was very interested in cancer research. He was not a great researcher. This is what he told me. He said he was not great. And he realized quickly he probably wasn't going to get a PhD. And if he did, he'd be not so great, have trouble getting jobs, not make a lot of money. But he turned out to be a great sales guy. And so by going into sales and making a lot of money in sales, he was able to donate to cancer research centers to hire better researchers than he could be. And that's how he was able to achieve his goal of having impact on cancer research. It just wasn't him doing the research. So he found a way to achieve his goal indirectly, not by being the hands-on guy. Focus on what you want in life and how does your job achieve your overall life goal. And that's what you should be optimizing for.
Thank you. So just right off the bat, then, how do you, I guess, find that overall life goal? Because, I mean, this is just me. I'm looking at it. It's like, okay, in my early 20s, and I'm looking ahead, and it's like, life, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong because I've heard otherwise, but I'm like 30, 40, 50 years. That's a long time in my mind. How do you, I guess, find kind of that overall life goal if there's so many things that could change at moment's notice?
What you'll find is when you're in a job, you'll be on projects that are many months long. This can be a little hard to understand when you're in school, because in school, the biggest project you ever do is a professor saying, here is your semester-long project. And it's a well-defined, well-scoped project. The professor isn't going to halfway through say, oh, we're going to change it up and you do something else. But in the workplace, you'll do these big projects that can last many months, even years. And as you start down the path, you're going to hear, oh, wait, we're changing what we're trying to do, or throw that out, or we can't do this, or a competitor did something, now we need to shift it up. This happens all the time, but we still need to create project plans. And the key with our project plans, if you tell me, Mark, here's a year-long project, it's January 1st, figure out a plan to do it by the end of the year. I don't know what I'm doing on October 25th, but I'm going to say, well, around September, I need to be here. October, I need to be here. November, there. I don't know the exact details. I know roughly where I should be. Now, what am I doing next Tuesday? I should have a pretty clear plan because that is closer to me. And so I have a concrete, a better defined plan the first, let's say, 30 days. I have some generally clear ideas what I'm doing maybe next month or two. And then I have these fuzzy placeholders further out. But of course, as I get closer, now things will shift as they go. And what I thought I needed to be doing in October is going to change. But by the time we get to September, that should be a little more clear and fixed. And now I know what I will be doing October 1st, 2nd, and so on. The same thing is true for our lives. So you want to have that long-term, hey, here's where I'm trying to go. I think I want to get married in my early 30s. I'm thinking I want to live maybe on the West Coast. I'd like to work in this type of industry and be at this level and make this money. But let's talk about what I'm doing this next year. How am I going to concretely achieve getting that promotion, building up this skill, learning about this tool or industry that you want to have more concrete? And to help you figure this out, I have a list of questions. They're in the book, but I also put them on the website. And so under the resources page of my website, the career planning questions, it's a list of 20 starting questions. These aren't the only questions, but they're starting questions to just ask yourself, how do I feel about this? And think about how you might feel about it today, how that might change 5 or 10 years from now. Talk to your friends. How do they feel about it? Maybe they have some thoughts that you hadn't thought of, and that's going to change your perspective. These questions, by the way, you can also use when you're talking to all those people about their careers, these older people you're meeting. Ask them some of these questions, how they think about for ideas.
Because it never stops is, I guess, what you're saying, is you're constantly
refining it.
Interesting. So it's almost like having, that long-term, like that vision, right? That's in our head. And then the goals, so to speak, are like maybe the milestones you want to hit are, in months and years. But then like next week to a day, that's where you have the fine details of exactly what you're going to do to reach towards that vision. And as that vision maybe adjusts, everything else kind of falls into place.
You just continue to revise. Eisenhower famously said, I'm pretty sure other people said it before him, plans are worthless, but planning is everything. So don't worry about what's my plan to get it right. What happens if I change it? Because you will. And then you might even realize, wait, I'm not even following my plan. And that's okay too. But the act of planning, the act of asking these questions of yourself, of talking about with friends and colleagues and mentors, it's going to help you think through some of it. Not that you'll have a definitive answer and you say, done, but just thinking through it will help you. So when you face questions and situations, you'll have been warmed up and you'll approach it having had all that forethought. And that's really what's important here.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. That's something I'm going to end it on that. I think that's perfect. Just that last phrase there. So, and thank you just for sharing the knowledge and wisdom on that. So now I mean, I've looked at the website and the PDF. Your blog, by the way, is phenomenal. You write really, really great blog posts. I really sparked the mind and some stuff I'm already interested in. But if people want to reach out to you, find you, all that fun stuff, what's the best way they can do that?
I'm going to give you two websites. The first is thecareertoolkitbook.com. That's the website for my book. You can see where to buy the book. The blogs are all posted there, all the blog articles that come out every week. There's the resources page we mentioned. There's a whole bunch of completely free resources. You don't even have to sign up for an email list. You can just download this stuff, including the career plan questions. So it will help you think through this. There are questions. There's another list, what you should ask as a candidate. So when you're interviewing with companies, here are things you should be asking them. There's a whole bunch of other resources too. All of that is at thecareertoolkitbook.com. If I'm going to give you a second website, brainbumpapp.com. Now, this is a free app, and it is linked. If you go to the app page on the first website, it links to there. This is a free app on the Android and iPhone stores. It has all the tips in my book and all the tips in my blog articles and tips from other books and blogs and podcasts, and we can add more content.
Pretty cool.
It puts them all in your pocket. So you don't have to take note as you're reading the book. They're all there for you. And what's great, they're in your pocket, so you can use it one of two ways. You can set up, for example, a daily or a weekly reminder. You might set up these questions we talked about for career planning. You might just say, every Monday at 9:00, I want one of those questions to pop up. And I'm just going to think about that question for 20 minutes. And that's it. So it gives you that little nudge, that little prompt to help keep it top of mind. But then you can also use it just in time. We talked about networking, and there's a whole bunch of networking tips, concrete, actionable things you can do. They're all in the app too. So imagine you're walking into a networking event. You just open the app. Everything's tagged by topic. So you select networking as the topic. Here's all the networking tips. Just flip through those right before you walk in the room, and now they're all
there you go.
For you. So that's all completely free and at brainbumpapp.com. Awesome.
Well, thank you, Mark, for coming on here and sharing the knowledge and wisdom that you shared today. And so just thank you. Thank you for sharing this, Mark. All right, everyone, as you can tell, that is Mark Herschberg. He's a very intelligent person, has great things to share. I challenge you guys, if anything stuck out to you, or if you're interested in learning more about what Mark does, to go check out his website. He gave you some information there, and also the Brain Dump app as well. Stay tuned until next week. We have a great guest lined up for you guys. See you guys next week, and let's get after it. Hey everyone, if you liked this episode and would like to hear more, be sure to hit that subscribe or follow button. We release a new episode every Wednesday for you guys to listen to. Thank you guys so much for the support that you give. We could not have done this without you guys. If you would like to be a potential guest on the show, check out intelligentconvos.com and fill out the form there. Thank you guys again, and let's get after it.